So you, before we get into the interview, I follow you, I stalk you on Facebook, and you sprained your ankle today?
I did, last night.
What happened?
Walking up my stairs, going to bed.
Okay, so that's not
exciting.
it wasn't a metal
I was
injury.
totally sober.
It was just, yeah.
No, not metal at all. Nothing cool.
Okay, so I wanted to start with, there was an article about you in the Reader, and it was by Cosmo Lee, and he talked about the quote-unquote organic mix of grit and atmosphere you bring to the records you produce. Is that an accurate description? And if so, tell me about the atmosphere part, and then my next question will be about the grit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good, accurate description. I mean, I try to incorporate elements that most, metal producers don't incorporate. I use a lot of synth and just kind of like atmosphere textures and stuff like that. Just kind of create like, I'm not really so much in the technical aspect of metal, more like just the vibe and the overall like feeling that you get. You know what I mean?
Well, what is, and I'll admit, and I think it's obvious that I'm not a big metal listener, but I've spent the last month knowing that you were going to be on the show, listening and really enjoying the music that you've both played on and then produced. But it's also given me a very kind of particular feeling inside of me that other music doesn't. And what is the feeling that you hope the music either you make, yourself playing, or produce stirs inside someone?
Well, I mean, you kind of saw it in the video. I mean, it's definitely not like a uplifting.
Yeah, that video, by the way. We showed the first minute and a half for a reason.
Yeah.
It gets, and
it gets a lot worse.
It gets into some real heavy drug use. And I have to say, I talked to somebody who's in the know, and he said it's all very accurate. That it was.
Yeah, I mean, not for me personally.
No, I'm not accusing you of anything. But he said like a movie like Train Spotting, he was like, I can't believe it when they.
Yeah, no, it's an intense video for sure.
But also the way they inject.
Yeah. No, I mean the guy that directed it, Selden Hunt.
It's a beautiful video.
Yeah, no, he did a great job.
Yeah.
Him and this guy Jimmy Hubbard did an amazing job. They're based out of New York. Yeah, phenomenal. I was really, really impressed by it. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, like that's what attracts me to that type of music is like the negativity. I like music that, like you said, makes you have a certain feeling. You know what I mean? If it doesn't make you feel a certain way, then I don't know. It's kind of defeats the purpose. You know what I mean? Some people like music because it makes them happy. Some people like music because it makes them sad. Whatever. You know what I mean? But I personally like music that makes you sad.
Like Susan Boyle?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So when you listen to a lot of the music, most of the music is it's very aggressive. There's a lot of aggression in it. Does the music make you, is it a release of aggression for you, or does it make you feel more aggressive coming out of it?
No, it's definitely a release for sure. I mean, and maybe a little bit of both, you know what I mean? Like, I know when I play on stage, that's obviously a release for me, you know what I mean? Like, that's where I get out my daily aggression and really have fun and just kind of, kick the shit out of people. So that's what, I truly enjoy that aspect of it, you know
Sure.
what I mean? Like, I want people to, like, feel something and, like, pump their fists in the air and, like, just get rowdy. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
I can't think of a genre of music that probably has more misconceptions from people who don't know the genre than metal. What are some of the things, and maybe there's nothing, but what are some of the things that you think people think about metal and you want to say, dude, that's completely inaccurate. You've missed the point.
No, it's pretty much all accurate. We're all a bunch of assholes just trying to have fun.
No,
you know what I
you
mean?
say that, but you say that, and I've heard from people who, for instance, used to work at the Empty Bottle, that metal musicians and metal fans, and I think
that we like to drink.
That you like to drink,
Yes.
that you tip well,
Yes.
and that you are some of the biggest, can I use the word gentlemen?
No, yeah, I mean we're all sweethearts for sure. I mean,
Come on! No.
see, she's already getting rowdy.
Yeah.
No, but for the most part, I mean, everybody's in it to win it. You know what I mean? It's like nobody.
It's not the lottery. What are you talking about?
Well, it's all about having fun. You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, you guys. It's not that the preconception might be, and I know that there was, there's people off in Norway who do some, who set fires to buildings, or I don't know if that's true or not. But from what I get, that's a misconception, a very small minority, and for the most part, people in the metal world are nice people, and the idea that oh, my kid is listening to metal is a load of crap.
Yeah, I mean, your kid's not going to listen to metal and go kill somebody. I mean, if they're going to kill somebody, they're going to do it no matter what they're listening to.
Trying to make sense of the metal world, I made the mistake and went onto Wikipedia, and there are, and Wikipedia is pretty into the metal scene, I think.
Sure, yeah. That's where I go from all my metal research. Yeah, of course.
There must be 50 subgenres. I just don't even understand it. There's death metal, doom metal, speed metal, Viking metal.
Yeah.
Math metal? What do any of these genres, black metal of course, do any of these genres mean anything to you when you're in the studio?
No, it's all keywords that, writers and publicists and, any record labels, it's just like things that they give bands to try to describe them, but it doesn't mean shit.
A lot of writers talked about how Nachtmystium had been a traditional black metal band, and then starting with, I think, 2004 or so, shifted, did more atmospheric, more maybe industrial, and that was really, I guess it was right before, but you came in on the last two records.
Last two, and we did an EP in between.
So when you take on a band such as Nachtmystium, is one of your goals to help a band expand from what they've done before?
If that's what they want me to do, you know what I mean? Like some bands have their thing and, they don't want any outside involvement, which is fine, Then I get hired to capture what they do live or what they do, and then, it gets put onto a record. Some bands want me to get involved, which is cool. That's the records I enjoy doing the most, is when I can kind of get involved and have some input, like Nachtmystium. And to me, that's, I get the most excited about stuff like that. I like making records. Being in the studio is like where I feel the most comfortable on any level. But yeah, being, on the creative side is always, a lot of fun, for sure.
At its best, what can the production of an album, what can you as a producer, when a band comes to you and says, hey, Sanford, we need you to really help us find whether it's a new sound or a sound we've been looking for or a sound we have in our minds but we don't know how to put it onto record. What at your best can you do to enhance an album?
Production is a very relative thing. Like, some of my favorite albums technically sound like shit, you know what I mean? But I think that's what makes that record sound awesome. Mm-hmm. And if I heard it with a really clean, slick production, I wouldn't like it, you know what I mean? So what I try to do is just take what the band does and try to capture the best way I know how, you know what I mean? And whether it sounds really slick and produced or whether it sounds raw and, like, in your face and just kind of, weird sounding, whatever gets the job done, you know what I mean? Like, I just try to, like, most of the bands that I work with, I know on some sort of level, either, like, I've toured with them, I played with them, I'm friends of theirs. So I already know most of the bands that I work with pretty well. There's a few bands that will come in that I'm not that familiar with. Most of them I am. So I try to just, work the best way to make that record sound the best it can,
Speaking of the community, what is it's a hard question maybe to answer, but how would you characterize right now the metal scene in Chicago? From what I understand, Chicago has really one of the best metal scenes.
It does. There's a lot of great bands coming out of Chicago right now, and a lot of, like, diverse bands. It's not all one scene. It's not all death metal. It's not all black metal. It's not all.
So you're using
there are differences, but when you start getting in, like, the weird subgenres.
What's post metal?
I don't even know. I want to start a pre-metal band.
Somebody described Minsk as
I think it's like we go to the post office
pre-metal.
or something. Yeah, I don't know. Pre-metal
is like the fiddle.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to do.
Do you have, would somebody, go into your car and they'd say, holy shit, Sanford's got the 93.9 The Light as one of his presets.
Well, the funny thing is people assume I listen to metal all the time, which I don't. I hardly ever listen to metal.
Really?
No, never.
I assume that.
No.
What do you listen to?
Mostly country.
Really? Mm-hmm. So you, to talk about stalking on Facebook, you recently posted a video from Hank Williams Jr.
Yes.
I forget the name of the song. I'm a country boy. Or
Country
something.
boy can't survive. Yes.
So, and you said that this was my childhood.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Southern Alabama. Like, my family's from the same area as Hank Williams. My grandmother and him have like ties together. My uncle was hunting buddies with Hank Williams Jr. I'm friends with Hank III.
Wow.
So there's definitely I've always had this connection with the Williams family. You know what I mean? But I mean, that's my heritage. That's where I'm from. I grew up in the South. All my family still lives in the South. So.
What brought you? Was it the metal scene that brought you to Chicago?
No, I wanted to get out of the South.
Get away from the Williamses.
Well, yeah. I grew up there all my life.
Those people are crazy.
Yeah, they are. But you know, it's just like you need a change. You know what I mean? So, honestly, like it was more like I threw a dart at a map and it landed on Chicago. And
really?
Yeah.
Because that's in the center of the map.
Yeah,
so
you know. Well, that's as good as my aim.
Yeah, that's a good.
Well, I drink a lot of whiskey. But.
So have you? I mean, you must have known on some level that not only does Chicago have a metal scene now, but that it had. I know you're into industrial music. That it had the whole.
Yeah. Well,
rock
honestly,
track.
that's what drew me to it. You know, I mean, I used. When I was in high school, I used to dream of like living in Chicago. I was like, I just assumed everybody walked around and had black dreads, leather jackets. You know, just everybody looked at.
And then
you
went
looked
to
like
Lincoln,
Al Jurgensen.
And then you went to Lincoln Park.
Yeah, and then I get here and I'm like, oh, it's just a bunch of hipster indie rockers. But I'm kidding. But no, I mean the metal scene.
Hideoutchicago.com.
But yeah, the metal scene was pretty non-existent when I moved here.
Really?
Yeah.
So what happened? There was? In
I don't
other
know,
words,
it's
there's
just-
been waves.
Yeah,
There's
it's
been-
just a weird thing, man. I can't like pinpoint anything. You know what I mean? Like any sort of like, well, this is the day that it all changed. But yeah, when I first moved here, playing in metal bands, I mean, it wasn't easy getting shows, and there really wasn't a lot of bands to play with. But now it's like every time I turn around, there's like a new band that I haven't heard of.
Is there a difference between bands? I know there's been bands who played on from the south side, then there's been north side, then there's been suburban bands.
Right.
Is it all one community, or are there different?
For the most, I mean, it's definitely getting more. I mean, obviously the Southsiders think all of us Northsiders are
Indie
a
rockers.
bunch of sissies, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's definitely getting blurred. Like, I think the fact the Empty Bottle started doing metal shows and the Hideout started doing metal shows, I think a lot of like the core like Southsider dudes are like, yeah, the North Side's not so bad after all. So they've been booking shows here and at the Bottle and stuff. So it's definitely that line is definitely getting blurred, with every year.
Now you had a studio that has recently shuttered.
Right.
What does that mean in terms of bands who want you to produce their albums?
Well, I mean, I still work out of studios.
This was just a place where you.
Yeah. I mean, I've been working at a studio all day today. So I just came here for.
Who are you like? Who should metal fans or people who want to listen, who want to try it out? What are you working on now? What have you worked on
Well,
recently?
the band I'm working with now is a local band called Lord Mantis.
Okay.
And
you guys have the metal bands have the best names of all. Like there's one Municipal Waste.
Yeah.
Great names for
Yeah,
bands.
yeah.
I mean, like so much better.
Oh yeah. That's the great thing about metal is you can come up with the most ridiculous names and people are like, okay, that's what you're called. It's awesome.
Do you think hard about the name? Did you think hard about Circle?
Naming a band is the hardest thing about being in a band, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what you spend most of your time
Oh
doing?
yeah, it just that's the thing everybody fights about. You know what I mean? It's like you can write 12 songs and everybody's cool with it, and then you're like, what are we gonna call ourselves? And that's when the fight breaks out. Punches get thrown.
And then you
it's
settle
like,
on Municipal Waste.
Exactly, and you're like, there's something that's good with that.
So tell me about you're going on tour with Nachtmystium, and you play guitar, you play bass, you play keys, but on this tour you're playing keys.
Yeah, I mean, I did all the key stuff on the last 3 records. So yeah, we're going out. We're going direct support for a band called Cradle of Filth, which is
What did I tell you?
Another good name. Which I mean, they're for like a metal band. They're like one of the bigger ones. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be a good tour. You know, it's all like bigger venues. You know, like
Well, you've got House of
2,000 capacity.
Blues,
Yeah,
right?
we're playing House of Blues February 20th.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah.
And if somebody wanted to go listen to Minsk or Circle of Animals, what's the best? Is it on?
I guess just MySpace. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's what the kids listen to, right?
I think it's Friendster, maybe.
Oh,
The
yeah.
kids. I don't know. Or,
MP3.com. I forget. One of those.
well, thank you so much for coming,
Yeah,
Sanford.
it's
I
all
really
right.
appreciated having
Yeah.
you. Sanford Parker, everyone.